From my collection of die-cast model cars, I have chosen for this video 1/43rd scale models of cars raced by American Formula One drivers. These are the 11 cars I have chosen for this summary. The manufacturers of these models will be either Spark, Quarzo, or Mini Champs. I buy Formula One models that include the driver figure so that their unique helmets can be shown. These 11 will be in chronological order according to the years of competition. The progression in race car design is interesting, particularly in the way the size of the cars and the tires grew, and the introduction of aerodynamic devices. This is from the early 60s through to the 90s. Each of these drivers pursued various forms of automobile racing in addition to Formula One. I will point out just some of their racing histories. Mastin Gregory, known as the Kansas City Flash, competed in 43 Grand Prix. He was the first American driver to finish on the podium in Formula One, finishing third in the 1957 Monaco Grand Prix. Here the number 42 is a Cooper T53, in which he finished 11th in the 1961 British Grand Prix. This model was made by Spark. In other types of racing, he won Le Mans in 1965 with Jochen Rindt and competed in the 1965 Indy 500, running 5th until his car broke. Mastin Gregory is notorious for leaving his car before or during a crash. In sports car races, he twice jumped out of the car when the car was about to crash, and in another wreck he was thrown from the car during the crash. Formula One world champion in 1961, Phil Hill is one of two American world driver champions, the other being Mario Andretti. Hill raced Formula One between 1958 and 1966. He drove for 8 different teams, but is best known for being with Ferrari, where he had his championship season. This car by Quarzo is the Ferrari 156, nicknamed Sharknose, in which he won the 1961 Belgian Grand Prix and the championship. In other racing, he co-drove with Oliver Jean de Bienne to win Le Mans in 1958, 61, and 62. He also won the Sebring 12-hour race 3 times and the Daytona 24 once. In spite of his remarkable talent, he quite often doubted himself, even suffering physical maladies as a result. He also was a long-time contributor to Road and Track magazine. After retiring from racing, he built up an award-winning classic car restoration business and was a judge for years at the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance. He even won Best in Show in the Concours for his 1931 Packard. Dan Gurney scored his maiden Formula One win at the 1962 French Grand Prix, which remains Porsche's only victory as a constructor in Formula One. This number 30 by Quarzo is the Porsche 804 in which he won that race. He had 4 Formula One wins, one of which was the 1967 Belgian Grand Prix. That is the only Grand Prix win in an American-made car, one that he designed. That win took place just 1 week after he and A.J. Foyt drove the Ford GT Mark IV to win Le Mans, Ford's second win. That car had the Gurney bubble in its roof to accommodate the head of the 6'4" Gurney. In his excitement at the win, he shook up the bottle of celebratory champagne and sprayed it around the podium, originating that tradition. Jim Hall is most famous as a constructor of his various Chaparral cars that were very successful in sports car, Can-Am, and endurance Le Mans type races. But he was one of the greatest American racing drivers of his generation, capturing consecutive United States road racing championships, 2 Road America 500s, 2 Watkins Glen Grand Prix for sports cars, the 1965 Canadian Grand Prix for sports cars, and scoring a massive upset at the 1965 12 Hours of Sebring over a contingent of factory-backed Fords and Ferraris. In Formula One, he raced 4 seasons from 1960 to 1963. Here is the Spark model, the number 25 Lotus Climax. He drove to 4th place in the 1962 Mexican Grand Prix. Richie Ginther's career started with racing sports cars on the West Coast. He was a mechanic and later co-driver for Phil Hill. Then he raced sports cars for Ferrari and transitioned to Formula One, driving first for Ferrari and later for 5 other teams, including Honda. He raced in Formula One for 8 years between 1960 and 1967, scoring his only Formula One win for Honda in the 1965 Mexican Grand Prix. This is a Quarzo model of the number 11 Honda he drove to win that race, which was also Honda's first Formula One victory. Sam Posey grew up near the Lime Rock Park Racecourse in Connecticut. He owned his first car when he was 14, a Mercedes-Benz 300 SL that he still owns. He competed in Can-Am, Trans-Am, Formula 5000, in the Indy 500. Later, he was a commentator for several years of the Indy 500, famously butting heads with Bobby Unser during that race reporting. He drove in the fewest Formula One races of all these American drivers, the 1971 and 1972 United States Grand Prix at Watkins Glen. This is the Spark version of the number 34 Surtees TS9B. He drove to 12th place in the 1972 race. Peter Revson raced Formula One for 5 years between 1964 and 1974. He won the 1973 British and Canadian Grand Prix. Although he was heir to the Revlon Cosmetic Company, his name was Peter Jeffrey Revlon Revson. He is said to have supported his racing habit on his own. Revson, along with Dan Gurney, was one of 2 drivers to win races in Formula One, IndyCar, Can-Am, and Trans-Am. This is the Mini Champs model, the number 8 McLaren M23, in which he won the British and Canadian races. Interesting that a major sponsor of this effort was a cosmetics brand that is not Revlon. A contemporary of and frequent competitor of Revson was Mark Donohue. He drove many different types of racing, frequently for Roger Penske. His book, The Unfair Advantage, covers much of his career and is one of the most recommended books about automobile racing. Donohue was considered a leading Trans-Am driver of the late 60s and early 70s, driving Camaros and AMC Javelins for Penske. They originated acid-dipping car bodies to reduce their weight. He won the Indy 500 in 1972. He raced at Le Mans, Sebring, Daytona, and also 3 seasons in Formula One. He started in 1971 in a McLaren for just 2 races, then at a Penske PC1 for 1974 and the earliest races of 1975, switching to the March 751 Ford shown here for the latter part of 1975. This is the number 28 Spark model. Donohue's death came after a crash in the 1975 Austrian Grand Prix caused by a tire failure. During the crash, he struck his head but left the track feeling okay, but he died the next day of a cerebral hemorrhage. Born in Italy, Mario Andretti emigrated to Nazareth, Pennsylvania, when he and his twin brother Aldo were 15 years old. Mario competed in IndyCar from 1964 to 1994. He won 4 IndyCar National Championship titles, and in 1969 the Indy 500. In stock car racing, he won the Daytona 500 in 1967. In endurance racing, he's a 3-time winner of the 12 Hours of Sebring. He competed in Formula One from 1968 to 1982. He drove a Lotus, March, Ferrari for 3 years, Parnelli, Lotus again, Alfa Romeo, Ferrari again. He won the Formula One World Championship in 1978 with Lotus, and won 12 Grand Prix in those 14 seasons. He clinched the championship in the Italian Grand Prix, at which his teammate Ronnie Peterson was killed, a sadly similar situation to the other American world champion Phil Hill's Monza win in the race that Jochen Rindt was killed. This is the Spark model of the number 5 Lotus 72D Ford, in which Mario won the 1978 Belgian Grand Prix. Eddie Cheever competed for almost 30 years in Formula One from 1978 to 1989, kart between 1986 and 1995, and IndyCar between 1996 and 2006. He won the Indy 500 in 1998. Cheever started 132 Formula One World Championship races, more than any other American, driving for 9 different teams. His best year was 1983 when he finished 7th in the championship, scored 3 podium finishes, and 1 front row start for Renault. This car is the Spark model of the number 18 Arrows A10, in which he DNF'd in the 1987 Monaco Grand Prix. Michael Andretti was a talented driver who spent 22 years racing in the kart and IndyCar series, winning more than 40 races and 1 series championship. He was in 16 Indy 500s, finishing every race, with his highest finish a 3rd place twice. He also competed at Le Mans, Sebring, and Daytona, teaming with his father Mario 7 times. For a number of reasons, Michael Andretti's 1993 Formula One season with McLaren has been considered one of the more prominent F1 failures. He was teamed with Ayrton Senna, who, like Michael, suffered teething problems with the complicated race car that had the active suspension that was banned the following year. He finished only 6th of the 13 races that season, with his best result a 3rd in his last race. He left the team with 3 races left in the season. This is the Mini Champs model of the number 7 McLaren MP4-8, in which he finished 3rd in the Italian Grand Prix at Monza.